Hey, welcome back to Rosco Reviews. On today's episode, we're going to be replacing a boiler expansion tank on a radiant floor heating system. Many homes have these expansion systems, so I'm going to charge my tank to 15 psi. That is the operating pressure for the system that I'm working on today. To replace these on a standard water heater, particularly if you have a multi-story home, you'll want to increase the pressure on the tank to the static pressure of your home. That's typically between 40 and 60 psi. If you don't know the static water pressure of your home and you want to adjust the tank pressure, you may need to purchase a pressure gauge that you can attach to a faucet. I'll put a link for them below in the description of the video. This tank that I'll be using today is an AMTROL Extrol. It is an EX-15. This is a fairly standard size for a residential system. I'll be doing a direct swap with one exactly like this, so the process should go really easy. To replace our expansion tank, we might need a few tools. Something to grab a hold of the pipe with that is attached to the top of the tank. So I'll probably use a pipe wrench for that. And then we may need something to grab a hold of the top of the tank with if we can't just turn it by hand. The tank is pretty fat, so turning it by hand typically works. And we'll need some Teflon tape to put on the threads of the new tank before we screw it on. Here's a look at the tank that we'll be replacing today. You can see that it has a hole in the side of it and it's been dripping down the tank for quite some time. To replace this, we'll need to shut off the water. Lucky for me, there are shutoffs on either side of this tank, so it'll be real easy to shut off the water going to this tank. If you don't have these shutoff valves right next to it, you may need to shut off the water to the entire unit. When shutting these quarter turn valves, perpendicular to the pipe means that they are off. Next, we're going to drain out any residual pressure that's in the tank. If there's a cap on the bottom, then you'll need to remove the cap, and that will expose the valve stem. Then you can use any tool to release the pressure by pushing the pin on the middle of the valve stem. You can use a screwdriver, or I'm using a key in the video. These tanks are supposed to come pre-pressured to 12 psi, so I will be adding a little bit of pressure to mine. If you remove the cap off of the end, you will find a valve stem that is the same as for a car or for a bicycle. This valve stem here, and you can test the pressure with a tire gauge from your car. I'm showing that this one is pressured to about 14, so I'm just going to add just a little bit to it. I'm going to be using a compressor, but you can also use just a standard bike pump. Okay, I've pressured mine up to 16 psi, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it there for now. And I'll install it on my system. Again, if you're wanting to charge one of these up to put on your house, you want to charge this up to whatever your static water pressure is. These tanks are not supposed to exceed 80 psi, so don't charge it up past the 80 psi. If your home is receiving more than 80 psi as a static pressure, then you probably need to put in a pressure regulator on your whole house, because the fixtures in your house shouldn't be going higher than that. Standard static water pressure for most homes is between 40 and 60 psi. With the water turned off, we can try to remove this old tank. I may need to grab a hold of the top of it with this pipe wrench. This tank was on there pretty good, so I did use a crescent wrench and a pipe wrench to get it broken loose. Once it was loose, I was able to unscrew it by hand. Now there is still water in the tank and water in the pipe, so be sure and have a bucket and a towel down below there. Not pictured in the video, I do have a bucket and towel down below to catch the water that is running out. Before you screw on the new tank, be sure and wrap some Teflon tape or Teflon paste around the threads on the tank. You can now install the new tank. You're going to want to get it nice and snug. In the video, I just twisted it on by hand with the tank. However, you may want to use a wrench to do that last half a turn. With the tank in place, we can now turn the water back on. I've opened up the valve, so it should be back under pressure again, and we're gonna check it for leaks. I don't see any leaks yet. I'm gonna give it a little bit of time, flow some water through the system, and then we'll check it for leaks again. Okay, I've allowed the system to flow through some water, so I'm gonna check for leaks on all of these joints through here to make sure I don't have anything leaking out anywhere. Everything seems to be bone dry, so I think we're good. Hope you found this video helpful. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you back here next time.